Cheltenham, Cheltenham, Cheltenham is here again. Cheltenham, Cheltenham, Cheltenham is here again. 4 days of racing at the festival. The first day is the champion hurdle. So put your bet on and turn the telly on. Cheltenham, Cheltenham, Cheltenham is here again. Cheltenham, Cheltenham, Cheltenham is here again. Now it's day 2 of the festival. The Queen Mother Chase is the very next race. So put your bet on and turn the telly on. Cheltenham, Cheltenham, Cheltenham is here again. Cheltenham, Cheltenham, Cheltenham is here again. Now it's day 3 of the festival. The race of the day is the Arkle. So put your bet on and turn the telly on. Cheltenham, Cheltenham, Cheltenham is here again. Cheltenham, Cheltenham, Cheltenham is here again. Now it's day 4, the day we're waiting for. The Gold Cup's a race, so get your bet on and turn the tally on.
Hello and welcome to the Whippy's Drawn podcast. A bit of a one-off podcast, really. I had a sort of a biblical moment to myself one cold lockdown wintry evening. I thought, you know what? Why not assemble a star-studded lineup of punting royalty, as Ashley Billington has alluded to before we started recording this, to try and delve through the racing at the Cheltenham Festival and hopefully try and find those listening a couple of winners. Thank you indeed to those who are listening. It's great to have you along because we weren't entirely sure who would listen or whether anybody would listen, but really we didn't really care. We fancied a bit of a chat amongst ourselves about Cheltenham and we thought, why not? So let's introduce people. My name is Adam Salisbury. I hope you know that before tuning in. So we'll start off with Joe the Power Whitaker, the Lancashire Post betting expert. Welcome along, Joe. How are we?
Thank you, young Solly. Yes, I'm all right, thanks, mate. Feel honoured to be invited to such a thing. Oh, clearly, my column is going places.
Well, absolutely. I've noticed how many winners you've had on the column. I thought you are a must-have on this podcast because you're banging in the winners. You're in.
Were you on the Dashel Drasher 3 weeks ago?
I'll be honest. I don't even read your column, but I will start doing if you can find some winners today, Joe. Just a quick note: we are recording on Monday, the 8th of March. So apologies if any horse has been withdrawn. If you're listening to this during the festival, moving on, we've got Racing Anorak. And the man who just loves to listen to racing podcasts, Ashley Billington. Welcome along, B.
Thank you very much, Sol. Much appreciated. Thank you for inviting me. Let me just clarify there when you said punting royalty. I said I felt obliged joining it, not that I was part of it. As I said, I am a bit of an anorak, as you well know. So we'll be kind of dropping in snippets that I've heard from the upon hours of podcasts that I've listened to recently. So hopefully I can pass on some useful info as well as a bit of insight as well. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. It's great to have you along because, like you said, I do receive a great deal of WhatsApp messages from Ashley offering tips about the festival. And I thought he was a must-have on the podcast. And finally, we've got Ian Walmsley JNR, a.k.a. the man the bookies fear. Welcome along, Whammer.
Good evening all. I'm looking forward to this. Over the last few days, I've done a little bit of studying. Been on YouTube watching some horse reruns. It's got the juices flowing a little bit. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what you three have to say, really.
Good. Yeah. Nice to have you along. Right. For those listening, what we're going to do is we're going to look day by day, starting with Tuesday, ending on Friday, and all the big races on those days. And then we're going to have a look at some handicaps after that. And then we're going to have our nap and lays of the festival. So
just before we get started, Sol, can I just ask, Whammer, is it true that the nearest bookies you can get into is in the Outer Hebrides these days?
I think it's just south of Stoke.
Well, I'd love to read your mileage receipts.
Right, Joe. Oh no problem. Feel free to chip in where you like, lads. So if you listen to this and you can't be arsed listening all the way through, because it could get long, it might not be long, who knows? But if you can't be arsed and you want to look at race by race, day by day, feel free to skip through. Right, without further ado, we best get started, something resembling some sort of racing podcast. So we'll start on the Tuesday, and obviously we won't have the crowd there. There won't be a roar as the flag goes up and the flag drops for the Supreme Novice Hurdle. Do you think the crowd will have any sort of impact, Ash? Or no crowd?
You get some horses that can go one way or the other, some that become galvanised by the sight and sound of Cheltenham, and you get others that are spooked. I know Notebook, for one, last year, in the Arkle was one that you had to keep a very close eye on in the preliminaries, just for fear that, it could overboil. But on the whole, I like to think that it kind of brings horses alive, especially the raw, even though it does feel a bit manufactured these days, the raw, not as organic as it used to be, but do you know what I mean? And I say I'm all for the spectacle.
That's because they've started searching people on the way in.
Yeah, Rosh. What constitutes to an organic raw? It's not like organic meat, is it?
It's certainly not. No. So organic was something that just naturally comes along. I just feel that the modern day. Don't get me wrong. Certainly, as it's moved to 4 days, and it's. Don't get me wrong, it is all about bringing money into international hunt racing. That it just feels as though that the people who turn up kind of know what to expect with the raw, and it's kind of, I would say, lost its gloss, because I love the festival, but it just feels manufactured and not as organic as it once did.
No, I know what you mean. Kids have Christmas, we have Cheltenham, as you like to say, Ash. I know Indeed. That. Right, the Supreme Novice Hurdle, a quick run through the betting. Appreciate It is at 13-8. Metier is at 6-1. Ballyadam 7s, Soaring Glory 8s, Blue Lord 12s, 25-1 bigger. 25-1 bigger the rest. Right, okay. Ian, we'll come to you because you had a change of heart on this in the last couple of days you mentioned before recording. Let's talk about Appreciate It. I think that's the only logical way to start. What do you think?
Appreciate It. I've had a little bit of a change of opinion. A few days ago, I thought that Appreciate was possibly a banker of the week, really. I thought, before looking into the race in any sort of depth, I thought that he looked at a weak race. I've been impressed with Appreciate this year. It's beat Ballyadam twice, I think, has it this season. I'm not a fan of Metier. And I just thought there wasn't much in the race, so I thought Appreciate It was around earlier on, over the last couple of weeks. It was a 9-4, 2-1 mark, and I thought at that price, Willie Mullins, Supreme Novices Hurdle, I thought around that sort of price it'd be worth a bet and would be something that I'd be looking to keep on side. Whereas opposed to now, just feel that. It's getting shorter and shorter. I've read that. It's won impressively this season over in Ireland, but that's predominantly been on soft, really, and heavy ground. Cheltenham's still just over a week away. We're probably looking at good to soft. I think soft in places. And I thought Appreciate It when I've watched a few of its races back this season. I feel that it could be a little bit on the short side, a Supreme Novice Hurdle for it. I understand Willie's obviously got a lot of horses and a lot of entries and the various races, particularly the Novice Hurdle races. I just think something might be lurking there that could do Appreciate It for a turn of foot, really.
Yeah, I think the horse will need the race to be unfolding slightly before they turn in for home. To use its gears. Soft ground would obviously be a humongous plus, wouldn't it, for this horse? Joe, what do you think? Is it a bit too short, like Whammer said?
Yeah, I agree with Whammer, mate. Obviously, I had my own gaff for 3 years, and I used to always try and get the week off to a good start by laying that fab off the boards in the Supreme, really. I mean, I don't think one's won for 7 years, is that right?
I think it's two of the last 2,000 last 10 years, I think.
Is it yet? I remember Min was the first favourite I took on it, about 15-8, 7-4. I just think it's a race for the bookies, to be honest, mate. You've got a lot of younger sort of novice horses, obviously. There's improvers coming out of the pack. I don't think you'd be taking a short price. I mean, yes, it has looked good in Ireland, but has it really beat anything, coming round to Cheltenham? Are you really going to part with your cash so early in the week for something that's quite short? That's the way I'd always look at the Supreme, really.
Yeah. No, wouldn't be totally against that. Ash, are you part of the anti-appreciate it? And what would you be looking at if so?
Just to kind of touch on and what Joe the Power said, then that it is historically, and I say the last 10 years, been a race for the bookies because, the old adage of it's Mullins, it's a fab, it's a Supreme. I think the way that, perhaps the best way to look at it, certainly with some of these short fabs and certainly with the odds-on fabs, is with regards to whether the price is decent or not, is would you actually lay it at that price? Now, I know David Mullins has been quoted as saying that he thought Appreciate It lacked tactical speed, which I think is a point that Whammer just mentioned then. And that, from his perspective, he preferred Ballyadam. Now, last time out, at Leopardstown, he was the only front runner to actually be there at the end. Now, so you then think to yourself, does the form look better? Is the form looking better than it actually is? It's also a 1 or 2.5 mile bumper last year. Now, again, as I said, Willie Mullins is no move by any stretch of the imagination. The man's a magician. It's just, as you said, what is there to beat it? Now, it's if you go through the market, say what Soaring Glory won the Betfair, but Betfair hurdle winners don't win the race. They do have a very good record in it. I think My Tent, again, I think won it off 149. Kalishnikov as well. Those are two that come to mind. So they don't win it, but they do have a very good record. Now, the one that I've kind of, if you're looking at Ballyadam, it did underperform at Christmas, but I think, Gordon Elliott's horses at the time were underperforming. The one I have kind of come down on is Mullins' second string, just at the price is really Blue Lord. Again, listening to what Danny Mullins has said, not David, but Danny Mullins this time, he feels that he's better than the actual bare form. Quite confident that he'd be in the mix. May not win it, but again, do you know what? If we're just saying, to pick, 6 to 4 shots all night, it's going to be quite a boring podcast. I think that would then have a positive impact, if he does perform well, on the Ballymore for Bob Ollinger. And then the Bob Ollinger form would then have an impact on the Albert Bartlett form. I think it's kind of all interconnected. So for me, at the price is, again, because, there are bookies out there that'll give you, it's kind of a shot to nothing, really. I think, Sky Bet, for example, give you the money back. That I'd have a swing for the fences, shall we say, at the Blue Lord at double figure prices. But he is entered in the county, though. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, and it's quite high up in the betting for that county hurdle, isn't it?
That's the only thing. Yeah. I was thinking Bob Ollinger for the Supreme, but the more that you kind of is creeping towards it, that you thought, unless it really poured down, similar to what was it, Envoy Allen was being considered for the Supreme up to about Sunday night last year. That unless it was biblical type weather, that he's looking to go to the Ballymore. So I'd say Blue Lord at the prices to run into a place. Appreciate It will be very hard to beat, though, I think. But I do like taking on favs.
No, yeah, I completely agree with that. No one's mentioned the Tolworth winner, Metier. I must admit that horse leaves me cold. I just look at the bare face of that win in the Toll. Look, it was impressive. Shake 'em Up Harry was runner-up that day. Came 8th in the Betfair Hurdle, which was impressively won by Soaring Glory. What are you thinking? Do you think what do you make of Metier? Because it's won the Tolworth. It's done everything the punters have asked, but nobody within the industry really fancies it at all.
Yeah, and it has been fairly strong in the market as well, really. I'm checking the Betfair prices over the last few days. It has, with the no meat horse coming out of the race and skipping Cheltenham altogether, Metier is around, best, even on Betfair, is the best price 6 to 1. And there's plenty of money there for it. I just can't set to the horse. The form's questionable. What's the Tolworth form like? Shake 'em Up Harry. That wouldn't be lining up you wouldn't be fancying that for any races at Cheltenham. Has the prep been ideal? It was entered in the Betfair. It's not run since the Tolworth, which was that around New Year's Day, something around that. I just think in these sort of, particularly in the novice hurdle races, I just think the Irish always have, of late anyway, have the upper hand really. And I think the British, I'm surprised to see Nicky Henderson's not got. Nicky Henderson's normally got a fairly, a decent horse in the Supreme. He's nothing in the Supreme at any sort of price anyway that I can see. And I just think it is for the Irish. Myself, I wouldn't be surprised if Appreciated won, but it's tough to weigh up really.
No, it is. I must admit, I think Appreciated obviously will take a lot of beating, but I wouldn't be that keen to take a wheelbarrow round to Fred's to unload on it.
You wouldn't get it on, pal.
Well, not that £100 max. But two roughies, so to speak, that I sort of came to. One is Irascible for Henry de Bromhead. Was in behind Appreciate twice, 4 lengths behind Blue Lord that you tipped up, Ash. So I'm not sure why that's a 40 to 1 poke as opposed to Blue Lord that's 12 to 1. We love the good ground and was in front of the Elliott horse before, so I thought that might be worth an each way poke. Let's go through.
Sorry, just before you, I think that's same with Blue Lord. That's entered in the county as well. So just to be wary of, the horses that are multiple entered. I know there'll probably be quite a bit of crossover this evening, but just to, if anyone does listen to this, to make people aware of it. Yeah,
no, absolutely. So let's go round then. Whammer, I want you to pick for the Supreme.
I'm come forward with Appreciate It, and I'm gonna say Appreciate It. If I had to put my neck on the line, I'm gonna say Appreciate It. But at the odds, do you think it's possibly worth? It's worth observing the race instead of having a play, really. But if I had to pick one, Appreciate It.
Right, you told me that you're going to lay Appreciate It before we came on, and now you're backing it, which is a great start from one.
I've been like that for the last week or so. So who knows? If you ask me again tomorrow, I'll probably be against it.
Okay, Joe.
Entry dependent, Bob Ollinger for me at the prices, mate.
So, do you think that will actually go for the Supreme? I give it no chance of going for the Supreme.
It probably is. It the counties entered in as well.
Bob Ollinger.
Ballymore. Do you mean Blue Lord?
Ballymore, sorry, the one on the Wednesday.
It's going for the Ballymore,
Ballymore.
To be honest, I'm surprised. I think Metier's not a bad price myself. I know he's only won the Tolworth, like you said, though. It was a flat horse at Andrew Slattery's in Ireland. And I just think he's only done what he's been asked to do. 7s or 8s on the day, maybe. Surely it's an each way shout. That it's a bit of insurance at least.
Yeah, that's fine.
Filthy each way player, that power. Absolute each way thief. Account closer, that lad.
Right, Ash, I'm going for you for your selection. Give us the winner of Supreme, Ash.
The price is Blue Lord each way. Just on the point that you mentioned there about laying Appreciate, if people do want to lay Appreciate It, I'd probably do it in running because it's a front runner and the price will tumble pretty quickly.
You can easily do your bollocks in running, pal.
You can, yeah. But if you fancy,
carefully.
But if you do want to lay it for small stakes, bet responsibly. then maybe do it as soon as they go within the first furlong or two, because it'll drop. You'll probably get a bit more value, I would say.
Yeah, it's a good point from Ash. I'm tipping up the Fav in the Supreme. It might not be the theme of the things to come, but I wouldn't put you off irascible each way if it ends up there. Right, good. Moving on to the Arkle. It's a superb race, this. It really is. We've got 2 novice chases here well, you could even say 3 novice chases here. Shishkin is 10-11. Energumene 9-4. All Mankind 13-2. 16-1 Bar. You've got 2 novice chases here at the head of affairs that look like absolute machines. We'll go to you, Power, first. What do you think?
I like to say it's all about Shishkin, mate, because I absolutely love the thing. But the more I think about it, I know I mentioned before, it's a bit like when you fancied yourself at primary school and when you get to secondary school, you get your bollocks knocked in. I think the Irish thing could be a nice animal. I think it could come over and put him in its place. You know, it's probably beaten more over in Ireland than Shishkin. I know obviously Shishkin won the Supreme, but Energumene, did he have a bad scope? I don't know why he didn't race in the festival last year. I just think at the prices, it's probably better value to go with the Irish Raider.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. I think the 9-4, well, it's eye-watering compared to the 10-11. But I would just suggest that it's slightly larger on the exchange, Energumene. Not by that much, but if you are having a play, make sure you play on the machine. Ash, what do you think?
This is a race to save. It really is. 2 mile chasers going around Cheltenham, blimey. Just the one thing I will say about Energumene, again, I'll kind of analyse it very quickly. He's had 2 easy leads, this season. That, with All Mankind in the race, is he gonna get that? Listening to what Dan Skelton's got to say about All Mankind, he's very headstrong. That he will lead, and it's that Energumene's got to really, I won't say settle, but kind of race, maybe not quite eyeball to eyeball, but not be able to dominate like he has done. The one thing as well, Kevin Blake, who's a very good analysis, has kind of picked up on the fact that Energumene jumps to his right a little bit, which round Cheltenham would be quite significant, especially with the undulating tracks, especially the way some of the fences do come at the horses. But saying that though, it's had little race course experience. Is it open to more improvement? Does lack Cheltenham form though, compared to Shishkin. If you watch that Supreme again last year, did it perhaps get outpaced coming down the hill? I think it was a class that told so much went wrong for him in the Supreme, and he still won. Think how far clear him and Abracadabras were, behind 3rd place. I know Abracadabras, got left at the front too soon, 3 furlong out. But as I said, it's with Shishkin, its form's been franked recently by Tamarin Duroc, who
Well, didn't it? Well, really well.
Yeah. And Shishkin absolutely hammered him at Kempton over Christmas. So, as I said, the one thing, and again, just touch on the point that Dan Skelton has made about All Mankind, that he feels the way the race will pan out is that All Mankind will take it as pretty much second last to the last. Then it'll be an Energumene, and then Shishkin will have to come round the pair of them. It is kind of how he's playing it out in his head. So it's a race to save it. And if you were to price it up, you would probably have to, in theory, to price it up in Energumene and Shishkin to be the same price. So I agree with what the Power says in terms of if there is value, it is an Energumene. Would I lay Shishkin at evens? I don't know if I would, but as I said, I'd have them priced up at the same.
Yeah, take a really brave man, to be honest. What do you think, Wham? Do you think the price is because it's widely regarded as the best juvenile in England in training, Shishkin.
Yeah, but at the same time, I do think that the prices are about right. I think Shishkin is a monster, and I think with All Mankind being in the race, I think that suits Shishkin more than it does a Energumen. Energumen was impressive last time out, but again, that Leopardstown form on bottomless ground, did it flatter it? I know Shishkin, has run against very little this year, and they've been mainly in 5-runner races, egg and spoon races. But I just think that Shishkin is sort of the apple of Nicky's eye, the apple of the whole British racing's eye at the moment. And for me, I do think it's Shishkin at even money. I'd rather back Shishkin at even money just because I think that's the winner of the race. I'd rather back an even money winner than an 11-4, or if you're backing All Mankind at 7-1 losers. So for me, Shishkin is one of the best, most exciting horses of the week. And I do think with All Mankind being in the race will be run to suit.
No, I completely agree. What do you think, lads? Do you reckon it is a match? Or can Skelton on All Mankind, who will most definitely go out like a screaming cat, nick this from the front? Go on, Ash.
One thing is for certain, there'll be no hiding place. As I said, it's not going to be a case that they're going to crawl around and then it's just going to be, a turn of foot in the last couple of furlongs. As I said, it's one of them races. I don't want to sound boring about it, that it's not necessarily that you have to have a punt it, because it's a 2-mile chase around Cheltenham, and this could be a race. It's shaping up as a race to savour, to be fair. But I agree with what Whammer said in terms of Shishkin being a monster. And there's stuff been bandied about this. It's Nicky Henderson's, worst season. But you need to look at Shishkin on his own, as opposed to getting Cloud, mixed up with all that. And Shishkin's form is good. You know what I mean? As I said, he's looked. As I said, you just look back at the Supreme last year, and he has got Cheltenham form. From that perspective. So, yeah, as I said, it'd be Shishkin for me.
I'd be extremely concerned about jumping for All Mankind. I think he will go extremely quick, that's for sure, and they'll come quickly at Cheltenham for him. They really will. The obstacles, maybe even the hill last year.
Can I just say as well, lads, got brought down in the Supreme last year, Captain Guinness. Was travelling quite sweetly. I know it got put in its place over in Ireland by an agent. No, Cheltenham's different. Just think at a big price, I won't be surprised if it just sneaks in the frame.
It's one of them horses that just hasn't had a lot go right for it in the big races. Like he got wiped. Did he get wiped out by steering for Longe where he went wild right?
But clearly well thought of as well on his day. I think, so.
And he was one of. I'm not sure if a steering for Longe directly wiped him out, but it was either a steering for Longe wiped something out, then wiped out Captain Guinness, and then I think he unseated last time, didn't he as well? But yeah, do you know what? As an each way at a decent price, you never know.
I'd rather back that each way than All Mankind myself. And I know it's double the price of it, but
Henry's record with 2 miles around Cheltenham.
It's good, isn't it?
So I mean, I
think All Mankind's going to win in it, which it probably won't do. So I don't really see the point in backing that to get a place if you are an each way punter, because I think it'll probably go all out from the front and get nowhere really.
I'd just be worried that Captain has had a pretty trouble.
Sorry, time of it.
Yeah,
I think he's just been unlucky. I think he's been, as I said, I think he's been unlucky at key moments a little bit, and I don't think Henry would send him unless he was absolutely certain that he could. Well, firstly, he'd jump and travel, and that he'd have a decent chance. To be fair, but yeah, a decent price to be honest.
Right, I'm all over the 10 to 11 or even money about Shishkin. What about you, lads? Whammer?
Shishkin.
JP?
I'm going to take it on, mate. I'll go with the Energumen.
And Dash?
Shishkin, but as I said, don't feel you have to steam into this race. You can just savour it from the edge of your sofa.
Just have the lot on Shishkin and that's you done for the week, lads. Sound.
Yeah, no need to have another bet. Whammer.
And then cancel your leave.
Yeah, Whammer is all over the first two FAVs of the week. So I'm expecting Ian not
We're
to
not
have...
all over appreciated. Shishkin,
Well,
yes.
Rightio. Right, another really good race, the Champion Hurdle. Let's quickly run through the betting. Honeysuckle 2-1, Goshen 100-30, Epatante 100-30, Abracadabra 10-1, 14-1 Bar. Right, Honeysuckle and Epatante, the mares getting £7 off the boys. Epatante is the champion. Honeysuckle won the mares last year. I'll be honest, I've been against Honeysuckle every single race, and I've had my arse tickled every single time. So it's about time that I stopped taking this horse on, but guess what? I'm going again. I'll be taking it on. Whammer, talk to me about the Champion Hurdle.
It's a belting race, isn't it? But it looks between the three horses at the top of the market. Honeysuckle, I'm a similar camp to you in terms of it's a mare that I've not overly taken to. I felt last year, the mares race, it was very workmanlike. I mean, last time out, Leopardstown again, the ground. I still think there's some question marks there, and I think at the prices, Honeysuckle's plenty short enough. Epitante, I'm a little bit surprised. Epitante's been a little bit weak in the market over the last few weeks. Nicky's maybe not in great form, and getting beat last time out wasn't great, really, was it? But if you look back, if you can forgive that run, which we forgive horses a bad run. Epitante's not done a great deal wrong, really. Very impressive last year in the race. And then the last of the three is Goshen. What do we make of Goshen? I don't know what to make of it. It was one of probably the biggest disappointment of the season up until 2 weeks ago, and then it was like everything was back to normal. And I'm still I and ah about Goshen. It gives me nightmares thinking about the horse because the triumph last year would have been one of the most impressive performances of all time at Cheltenham ever. But we're talking about a champion hurdler here with two serious mares against him. I don't know.
No, yeah, I think you're right. I'll be honest, I've gone in on Epatante at 4-1. I thought it was too big and it needed back. It needed to be shortened, so I did. JP, the Champion Hurdle. Whammer alluded to it earlier on about Goshen. What do you think about this horse? It could be an absolute monster or a complete mess on it.
For that reason, mate, I won't back it with someone else's money, to be honest.
Won't back it with counterfeit.
Not for me. I know you said you've had your arse tickled by Honeysuckle. I think you should potentially change tack. I think it wins, mate. Again, horse can only be what's in front of it. I just think it goes there. I think it's got the least questions to answer for me. Like even at Epatante at Newcastle had a stinker in, didn't it? Surprised not more are talking about Silver Streak as a potential each way.
Well, it beat Epatante last time, didn't it?
Yeah, and then it got touched off by Song for Someone. Of course, he was beaten by a wide margin by Goshen. But like we say, you're really relying on that horse turning up. It's a minefield. And as I say, it's one for the layers, isn't it, really? But I'd be on the Honeysuckle myself, mate, for a win purpose, yeah.
Yeah. No, I can't blame you for that, really. I suppose ground's important, Ash, isn't it?
Huge, yeah. And, they're going to get in theory, the softest ground of the week on the Tuesday. I'm going to try and give as balanced overview of Goshen as I can.
You hate that horse, don't you?
I don't hate it. I just think there was a massive overreaction to the performance at Wincanton. Song for Someone never travelled the yard. If there was one track in the UK that Song for Someone wouldn't like, it'd be Wincanton. Goshen got the ground it wanted. What was it? Very soft, heavy. Will he get that on the Tuesday? I know they're going to water. That's the thing. I know the official going is going to be good to soft. It's like 1,000 to 1 on, isn't it? As it usually is at the official going, but they sometimes change it after the first, second race. I'm definitely against him at the current prices. The one thing I will say about Golshat and the performance is that it does make it a very, very intriguing race now.
Oh, it's helped the race for sure.
Hugely. If you compare it to the beginning of the season, you just thought, well, is it Epatante? Do you know what I mean? Is it just going to go off odds on? Is it just going to be, and then move on? But, the emergence of Honeysuckle, the fact that they've gone for it, I'll come on through in a minute. Don't get me wrong, Golshan did travel well at Wincanton, but the race did fall apart. And the question you've got to ask yourself is, if you do want to back it, is he good enough to give £7 to both Honeysuckle and Epatante? That's what that's just a question you've got to ask yourself. Now, Honeysuckle, she jumps, travels. Last time out at Leopardstown, she was given the perfect ride by Rachel Blackmore. And, when she I think it was about a mile out that she kind of put them to the sword. And that form that I think is the best form in the race, including Epatante's win last year. The one thing I will say, though, is that she can't be too conservative on Honeysuckle because she likes to race wide. Now, she didn't at Leopardstown. She took it up. As I said, it's going to be a bit different with Golshan. Maybe he's going to, as I said, if he's going to travel very, very well. There's others here. With Epatante, as I said, I know you mentioned before, she's had, the one thing that I think, again, another analyst, Kevin Blake, picked up on was her preliminaries at Kempton. She was doing things that she hadn't done before that were uncharacteristic. Now, she's had her back issues, but don't write off Nikki Henderson. If there's one trainer to get a horse right for one day, it is Cheltenham. And, if you look at Binocular, when he wrote him out the champion hurdle and put him in, he had a visit to Martinstown, which is the equine equivalent of Lourdes, and then come back and won on the bridle. As I said, so I wouldn't write her off.
Sounds a bit smelly, that, doesn't it?
Yeah. So as I said, from the Martins, they won't run her unless they're absolutely certain. Just to touch on a couple of the others, Abracadabra's Travel Like a Dream, both in the Champion Bumper Supreme. Needs to be delivered in probably, I know we've had a joke about it, probably in the last 20 yards, similar to what our Archibald used to be able to have to do.
It's the ultimate,
bridle horse, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bridle horse. It's a dodge.
It won't get home.
It's a dodge ball.
Yeah.
You can't buy that thing.
Sharjah, won 3 times at Leopardstown meeting, but then run 3 times atrociously at back-to-back at the Dublin Racing Festival. It's on a different track. It's on a different track at Leopardstown.
Came into it last year, absolutely tanky though, didn't it, Sharjah?
Yeah, but it seems to have a run of putting one good performance, followed by a bad one, and then good, bad. Saldier, possibly going county hurdle. Silver Streak, as the power mentioned there, potentially unexposed with their new tactics of running from the front, similar to what he did the Christmas hurdle. The one, if you want one at a decent price, Jason the Militant is an each-way play.
Who?
Jason the Militant. So it beat Petit.
Talking about a fucking champion hurdle, man.
Listen, so Petit Mouchoir is a good measuring stick.
For the champion hurdle?
A couple of years ago, I'd have agreed really with that about Petit Mouchoir. Now it's an absolute pig.
I'm just saying, each way for a decent price, Jason the Militant beat Petit Mouchoir as a mid 150s horse, beaten by 7 lengths, giving him £9. That's a £16 swing. So I think Honeysuckle will do it, and it'd be a great story for her and Rachel Blackmore. I think to be the queen of Cheltenham. But if you fancy an each way little poke, I won't put you off Jason the Militant, but Honeysuckle for me.
I think there's more chance of your brother winning the champion hurdle than.
Are you getting commission off here, Billers?
Fucking Henry de Bromhead. I've just said the fucking this Jason the Militant. What a surprise! Fucking Henry's horse. Fucking hell.
Oh, funny. Right, okay. I think we've spoken enough. I'm with Epatante. Ash.
Honeysuckle and Jason the Militant each way.
Wow.
Not fucking Jason the fucking Militant, or whatever the fuck it's called. At the odds, Epatante for me.
JP.
Honeysuckle for me, mate.
Okie dokie. 2-2. Right. Swiftly on, Mares Hurdle, Concertista 11-10, Honeysuckle, who we know is going for the champion, but he's in the betting at 11-8, Roxana 3-1, Damn the Company 6-1, 12-1 bar. Roxana's going to win, aren't they? Isn't she? Whammer.
I am quite a big Roxana fan. I'm a little bit surprised that she's turning up here, which it looks that way. I thought that the Skeltons would have been tempted by a dip at the Stayers World Hurdle, Stayers Hurdle, whatever it's called nowadays. But we'll talk about that race a little bit later. I do like Roxana. I think at the odds, I think that's the one you could possibly. I would probably want to back at the odds. Concertista won the Mares Novice last year, very, very impressively. One of the most impressive winners at the festival last year. But no, I just think Roxana is a high quality horse, and not a horse that Concertista won't have faced before, really.
Yeah, Roxana lost to Time Hill and Paisley Park by about 2 lengths at Ascot. I mean, that
was very, very strong form. That I thought
it is. It's outstanding form. To be fair, in terms of form, you can't really knock Concertista, can you, Ash?
No, you're right there. The thing with looking at this, it could fall apart, this race.
Yeah, it could.
You know, just to quote Dan Skelton, he feels that the rest of the field needs to raise the form to get to Roxana, not the other way around. He seemed very, very sweet. And, with Concertista, do you know what I mean? It's one of them, is she too short? And would you lay her at that price? She's beaten Manila Melody twice. I know she almost won. Was it the Mares Novice on debut for?
Yeah, she just got touched off. Touched off, didn't she? And
then won it last year. So clearly loves the track. Look, she's won a grade 2 and 3, but what's she actually beaten though? To be fair, I think the reason for the price is due to the lack of competition. And again, at the prices, I'd be keen on Roxana. The one that a couple of people have put up each way at prices, including Rory Delagi, is Indefatigable. Oh, it
won last year, didn't it? Last year at the festival?
Won the Martin Pipe off 145.
He's not trained by Henry.
Or Dan Skelton. It's been mentioning that name all night. We're only on Tuesday still.
Really big. But form this year hasn't been great. If you isolate the Cheltenham form, very good. It came second to Damn the Company before she won the Coral Cup last year. So I think at the prices, she may be a decent, each way poke. So yeah, but it would be, I'd like Roxana for the. Does she definitely go?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah.
You think?
Yeah.
Looking at it looks that way. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Concertista has beaten Manila Melody. Easy for me to say. Twice, and she's obviously improved a great deal because
just on that point, yeah. If you fancy Concertista, you may as well have a dart at Manila Melodies through the form line. At the prices, just for example.
Yeah, to run into a place. Yeah.
Yeah.
John, you got anything to say on the race?
Sort of throwing in my Jason the Militant here a little bit. I quite fancy Ellie May.
I think she's over the Mares chase, won't she?
Is she? She's 12-1 at the moment in the Mares Hurdle.
Yeah, she's FAV in the chase.
As I say,
15-8.
I was going to say, because obviously it's won over in Ireland. It's beat a couple of nice things over there. It'll go, obviously entry dependent. No, I think it could win that myself, but
yeah, I think it's a fair shout if she goes there. I think we're all quite sweet on Roxana, though, aren't we? Just to slightly go off on a tangent, I just think that Concertista would hold her own in the champion hurdle and Roxana obviously in the Stayers. I don't really understand the point in the Mares hurdle, but I suppose that's a debate for another day. So Roxana,
but I think the one that is too short is Damn the Company.
Yeah,
it's like she's 5-6-1 on, and she's kind of fallen back into hurdles a little bit, so I'd just be a bit wary of that, to be fair.
Yeah, fair point. Right, so Roxana all round then? 4 of us, yeah?
Yeah.
Good.
And indefatigable at each way.
Fair enough. Right, okay. Let's move on to the
national... each way.
Just right, Henry de Bramme's second string on the slip.
Right, okay. National Hunt Cup. We'll quickly run through the betting. 13-8 Royal Pagaille, Galvin 100-30, Escoria 10-8-1, Longhouse Poet, Next Destination, Secret Reprieve all 8-1, 14-1 Bar. Looks like Royal Pagaille will go for this race after being entered into the Gold Cup. What do you think, Wham?
I'm very surprised to see Royal Pagaille turn up here. Don't really know why. It's not exactly like Richie Rich, wants to win a Cheltenham race. And why is he that overly bothered about winning the National Hunt Chase at Cheltenham? I mean, I wouldn't be that bothered about winning the National Hunt Chase at Cheltenham. I mean, you'd take it if it was on offer, but if you're Richie Rich, I'd rather have a dip at the Gold Cup personally. I just think Royal Pagaille's opposable as well. Like, obviously, in the Gold Cup, I would have been against it. But even here now at the odds, what we're talking around 6-4, 13-8. I thought there's a couple of decent horses against it, and I think it's probably one that I'd like to take on. Really.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. JP, from a bookmaking standpoint, are you willing to take on Royal Pagaille here? No problem.
I'd take that thing on any race all week, mate. To be honest, I know obviously its owners, its colours are colourful, aren't they? It looks the part, but I think it might be a bit flattered. I don't know. I don't think it gets near a Gold Cup, to be honest. I don't blame Connections for going for this. I know Venetia Williams is having a nice season, but yeah, I'd take that on, mate. I'd be happy to take a good chunk on that, really, at 13-8.
Yeah, I'd just be worried a bit about the ground. I think if it dries up, it plays into the hands of Galvin, and obviously Royal Pagaille's been to Haydock and Kempton, flat tracks, up the hill maybe. I don't know. To be fair, it's not come off the staff, has it? Ash, what do you think? I'd be with Galvin personally. I think he's a nice horse. Cheltenham form.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think on form, Royal Pagaille sets a standard. He does on rating, and his win at Haydock was impressive, well, very impressive. But his last 3 wins have come on heavy, soft, and heavy. Yeah, and you've just got to take that into consideration. The thing with Galvin, I know Jamie Cotter has kind of stated that it's been the aim, long-term aim. He's avoided the winter ground. I think he'd be better on the better ground that you anticipate, and at the prices, he'd be a good shout. Potentially standard question marks for this is ever run his 3 mile. The one I did like, but I think it's been pulled out today, is the Welsh national winner, Secret Reprieve. Evan Williams. 2 Shrewdies have put an each way poke up for this. So I've ring fenced it. Rory DeLarge and Kevin Blake have put up the same one.
You love Kevin Blake, don't you?
I'm only passing on the no mugs.
No, it's fine. Go on.
Snow Leopardess each way.
Okay, talk us through that.
I think one thing that did stand out is that they both put it up and both give very, very valid explanations. I think, did Charlie Longston nearly win it with, is it Miss Parfois? Have I made that up? He got done by Patrick Mullins a few years ago. We got a bloody whip ban, on the ride of the week.
Whip ban.
We got a whip ban and got christened with the ride of the week. Was it on that frigger that ended up that came second in the Grand National? What was it called? Anyway, but yeah, as I said, so do you know what? I'll probably have an each way little poke on that. But yeah, I can see the Galvin thing because because of the ground and the prices, it's a decent value bet.
Yeah, I think 100-30, you can't necessarily go wrong with Galvin. Yeah. I'll go with that. Wham.
Yeah, I actually did have Snow Leopardess wrote down as well for the Unibet, the 2:30 race on the Tuesday. It is entered in both the races. I've got that and Escar 10. They're both entered in the Unibet, the handicap chase, and the National Hunt. So I like both of those. But out the confirmed runners, it'd be Galvin for me at the prices, yes.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm happy to go with Galvin, mate. It's a lovely grey animal, isn't it? It's whether it probably will it want the ground a bit softer than it's going to be. I don't know.
Galvin or Royal Pagaille?
Both potentially, mate. I think they're both there to be shot at, but obviously at the prices, I'd rather be backing Galvin.
I think Galvin will be better on slightly better ground than opposed to Royal Brigade. You don't know with Royal Brigade because he's won on heavy, soft and heavy.
Yeah.
The last 3 runs. So yeah, that's the only thing I would say.
No, I think it's a fair point. Right, I think that wraps up Tuesday. Good. Right, swiftly on to Wednesday, and it opens up with possibly the race of the week in the Ballymore. So we'll quickly run through the betting again. 5-2 about Bob Ollinger. Galliard de Manil 11-4. Braveman's game for Paul Nicholls 7-2, 12-1 bar. Right, let's talk about Bob Ollinger first of all. I take it you've got a massive circle around this horse, B, because it's Henry de Bromhead, isn't it?
I have got a massive circle around it. Yes, and it is because it's Henry de Bromhead. No, I think there's a recurring theme here, isn't it? To be fair, no, just to kind of recap or give an overview of the race. I've been a bit sweet on Bob Ollinger for a while. His last performance in the Lawlers of Naas was very good. Two people have been banging the drum about it. Jamie Codd, David Mullins, not connected to the horse. Was only beaten a length by Fernie Hollow, I think, first time out as well, who, was shaping up to be an outstanding horse, but before got injured. So he's my pick. Just to kind of recap another two, I think Brave Man's Game, should I say. Challow Hurdle winners have got a terrible record in this. Terrible. And I think the reason why it contracted in price was, I think Paul Nicholls mentioned him in the same breath as Denman, unprompted. And then he said, I think he was quoted as saying, I think he's slightly ahead of Denman at this point in his career as well. Now, Paul Nicholls does rate him as his best chance of the week, but Denman was then beaten in this race by, I think, a horse called Nicanor. The favourite, what was the favourite, Galliard de Mesnil, last time out, ran a very strong pace. He just saw it out the best, really. There's not much. I don't think there's not much difference between him and Statler. And Statler runs in the Albert Bartlett. So if you fancy Galliard de Mesnil for this, I think the form line for Statler in the Albert Bartlett will stack up for that. The question I will ask: how many of these do you think could actually come back to 2 miles? For me personally, only one, and that's Bob Ollinger.
Fair point. Yeah. Wouldn't oppose that view. Whammer, Galliard de Manil could be a bit of a machine, couldn't it?
Yeah, I was very impressed last time out. Briefly going back to Bob Ollinger, I think it's a bit of a reputation horse, isn't it, Bob Ollinger? It's been talked up a lot. A lot of the shrewdies in Ireland saying that Bob Ollinger is the one to be on in this race. However, I think that, Galliard de Mesnil was very impressive last time out. Again, it's that Leopardstown bottomless ground, but I thought it quickened really well. It went away from some decent horses in behind. But at the same time, I also think Braves Man Game, I don't think Paul Nicholls, I like Paul Nicholls. I think he's quite honest. I think he's quite open. And I think he does hold the horse in very high regard. And, comparing it to Denman, obviously it's a big statement. I know the Shallow Hurdle has a terrible record in the race, but at the same time, a record's there to be broken. Is one of them due? And there's been a lot of seconds and thirds. I don't think it's been a case of like it's a horrendous prep for it. And has there been as good of a horse as Brave Man's Game? I just think for me, the Bob Ollinger is the one I'd want to be taking on out of the 3 at the top of the market.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with that. I think you've got to tread carefully with regards to what Nicholls comes out with, because he was extremely sweet on Clandis Oboe, wasn't he? He thought that would hack up in the Gold Cup, and look how that turned out. JP,
I think sorry,
go on.
Just on that Bob Ollinger, I think it is a bandwagon horse, or certainly has been in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So it could very easily go off short.
The betting suggests that. The betting a few weeks ago, Bob Ollinger was the outsider of the 3.
Yeah.
And then Bob Ollinger's comfortably the fav now of the 3 over the last 2 weeks or so. Obviously, none of the horses have run. I just think it's kind of the snowball effect, and the price will end up reflecting that at the next week. So,
just one final point there. I mentioned Blue Lord in the Supreme. If that runs well in the Supreme, I think Bob Ollinger will come in even shorter because of the form line through that. So, I said that there's a few links there.
Yeah, it will. Joe, have you got a strong fancy?
If Bob Ollinger goes off a short price favourite, I'd be laying it, mate. I mean, obviously, I think they're bumping into an absolute Rolls Royce in Gallard de Menil. It won at Leopardstown, won the Golden Signet in Leopardstown, and I just thought that's a horse with gears. And although the Donnellys are getting some nice animals now, and I just think for me, I'm surprised that the vibes from Ireland are coming in favour of Bob Ollinger. It does make you think a little bit. Interesting where the money goes on the day, but yeah, for me, I fancy Gallard. I had that down as a future Cheltenham winner, back in December. I just think it looks a nice thing. It'll get the distance fine. I think it'll take to the place, mate. I think it'll win.
Yeah, right. I'll be honest. I think it's like Ash alluded to earlier on. You don't necessarily have to have a punt in the race, and I don't think I'll be that keen to have a massive punt in this one. I'd probably
balls deep.
Right, absolutely balls deep. Yeah. Trying to take Fred out of business. I'm going to tentatively go with Galliard de Menil, but it wouldn't surprise me if any of the three won. To be honest, Whammy, what's your pick?
I seem to me and you pick the same horses all the time. It's Galliard for me as well at the prices.
JP, you're the same, yeah?
Correct, mate.
And Ash, you're going with De Bromhead Shock Horror. Right, okay. The Browns Advisory, a.k.a. the RSA. Monkfish is in there at 4-6. Royal Pagai's not going there, 4-1. Eclat de Ree is quite interesting at 10-1. Next Destination is also 10-1. The Big Breakaway, Whammer loves that horse, 11-1. Sporting John 12, 20-1 bar. Right.
The Big Breakaway won't get round in a horse box.
I wouldn't disagree. I mean, Christ, I couldn't back that thing with Monopoly money. Right, is Monkfish there to be shot at, or is this the Irish banker, Ash?
Of all the odds on fives, I really do think this is, I won't call it bomb-proof, but it jumps, travels, stays. It's got better with every run. It did travel. If you watch the Albert Bartlett last year, I know they finished in a heap. He didn't travel that well. There was parts of it you thought, hang on a minute. He, I won't say looked in trouble, but looked to be kind of at it a little bit and still won. So, as I said, he's been very, very impressive. For me, I think this is a very quick one. It's Monkfish. Paul Nicholls, again, I know he's bullish on things, but he has perked up and said you shouldn't be afraid of one horse, especially in a novice chase at Cheltenham. So I won't mind maybe Next Destination each way.
Fair enough. I think quite an underused market in gambling is the bet without the favour, and I think that could be the way to go about this race.
Yeah.
Whammer, are you Monkfish?
Absolutely. This is the banker of all time at the festival. There's absolutely nothing against it. He's bomb-proof. I just can't say any more than this just wins.
I think more will run scared of this than they will Envoy Allen, as in the final field that lines up against it.
Definitely.
I think it'll scare more off than Envoy Allen, just because it seems to be like a machine.
JP, are you opening the bookies late that day? Snubbing this race, opening after that?
You would not be laying massive amounts on that at any price, mate. That's the way I see it, because I just think it'd spoil your week. Then again, how big's your Arsenal to have a proper do with it? They're all unbeatable until they get beat, aren't they? But I think it wins.
I'll be honest, I wouldn't be in a rush to back it at 4-6. Maybe if there's maybe a bit of, 4-5 about it, then you might be drawn out. Depends how
the bookie's getting on the first day. Depends how full the satchels are. Do you know what I mean? If they've got a few,
does Fred go evens or not?
Shit, me, you'd be running around Lancashire, won't you?
Won't be able to fly there quick enough.
If Appreciated if Appreciated gets beat, if Concertista gets beat, what other shorties are on the first day? Are those the two shortest? If they get beat, this will be Shishkin. The war chest will be bulging at Fred's, and he'll do a Fred's push at maybe 5-4.
It's in the double, isn't it, Monkfish? Let's be honest.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, absolutely. Right, okay, we're all sweet on Monkfish. That just wins. Moving on to the champion chase. Now, another Richie Fav. Now, to me, it's not it's by no means bomb-proof. It's at 4-5. Altior is at 7-1. Nube Negra for the Skeletons is at 8-1. Politolog 9-1 defending champ. First Flow 10-1. 12-1 Bar. Let's talk Chacun Pour Soi, guys. I think you'd have to say it's the right favourite. Obviously, it's at 4-5. Joe, you're laying this all day, aren't you?
No, I think that's the second leg of the double main. It wins. It gets the punters a nice Wednesday double in that, I think. It's not got a run round there, has it yet? I did have an abscess last year, and that's why it missed out, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's just smashed things out of the park a bit, and in Ireland. I think it wins. I think if you, like you mentioned, the bet without the fab market, I think you've probably got to forgive Politolog its last run there. And I think its Tingle Creek form puts it pretty solid second myself. Like, it's 11-year-old now and it's probably being beaten by a younger horse in Regal. I think it got caught for a bit of toad in it from the front there.
First Flow,
For me, that's, you can back it each way, but it's a bit of a bad each way race in it. I don't know. I'd probably just be lumping Chacun though myself. Like, I just think it wins. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 9-1's quite big about Politolog, isn't it? Let's talk about the elephant in the room then. Altior 7-1. Perhaps a bit short for me, but it could easily win and it could easily make it absolutely humongous. Well, I mean, what do you make of Altior? It was behind Nube Negra last time, which was quite an impressive performance by Nube Negra. Just came off the pace, jumped beautifully, and just put the race to bed. Having said that, Altior was coming off a bit of an absence. Ran okay. What do you think?
I think, as much as it pains me to, I mean, if Altior managed to win, it would be one of the greatest comebacks, so to speak, in racing history.
Sprinter Sacre-esque.
Yeah, maybe even more so. I don't know. I think this looks a hot race this year. For me, Altior possibly could be his last run. Maybe should have been retired. I'm not too sure where I stand on it. I don't think Nicky Exception would still be, he'd still be in training if it wasn't showing them enough at home. I couldn't be backing Altior though. For me, at the odds, I think there's far too many question marks.
Yeah, that's fair. I just think the odds on about the Fab, a shade of odds on in a champion chase. Never even been to Cheltenham before. Christ almighty, that could be one to sink your teeth into laying it. Ash, let's talk Dan Skelton. You like talking Dan Skelton. Nube Negra's had a chance, surely.
Yeah, but then just taking the point what Whammer said about Altior, then you then got to put that form at Kempton underneath the microscope. You can only beat what's in front of you, and he did win well. Was it Boxing Day in the Desert Orchid? So. With Altior, what you got to think is beginning of last season, Nicky was eyeing up the King George, weren't he? In terms of 3 miles. Now, I thought he looked slow at Kempton. That was it. That's the only thing. Did he bottom himself out when he raced? What was it? Surname?
It killed the pair of them. It seems.
Well, yeah. I think the thing with Chacun Pour Soi is if you take into account if you're having a punt on him, is the lack of course form. But he could run probably 7-10 pound below his best and still win. And you are gonna laugh again now. Arkle records in the champion chase the following year. 16 out of the last 18 Arkle winners have finished in the first 3 in the following year's champion chase, which is put the kettle on each way. I think again Henry. 2 mile chases, Cheltenham, he's done it. I know you're laughing, but I just think with the record speaks for itself in terms of Arkle winners there. I think Chacun looks a serious animal. But as I said, if you want to do your each way shorty double, the powers said there, fair play. But if you fancy an each way poke based on Arkle record in the past, I'd go put the kettle on each way.
No, I agree. I couldn't put anybody off a bet on put the kettle on. But I'm willing to lay Chacun Pour Soi. I'll be a tentative pick on First Flow who, if it gets its terms up front, a bit of an easy lead, I think it'll be bloody hard to peg back up the hill. What I would say though is I think the race will probably run to suit for the Fav. I won't be surprised at all to see it.
Do you think First Flow potentially needs heavy ground or really soft ground, or has it just been minded?
Yeah, it would prefer that. Yeah, in an ideal world.
Did win very well last time, Matt. Don't get me wrong. I was just thinking ground.
It was very impressive last time out.
Yeah, I will say that it was. It's just what type of ground does it need, kind of thing.
Yeah, so what are you going for, Wham? Champion Chase.
If I had to pick one now, I don't know why, but I'm going to go with Newbury Negra. I understand, like, Skelton jumped ship from Politilog. There's been a lot of money for it. I just think there's a little bit more to that than the bird form suggested. Sailors have already thought very highly of the horse. So Newbury Negra for me.
Yeah, we're talking about a horse that's actually run to the line in front of Altior, so it's not the most outlandish pick. JP?
I'm actually on Newbury Negra at 20s, I think.
The Shrewdy.
I don't fancy it. I think Shackle wins.
Fair dues. B?
That's the game we play, lads.
I think Shackle will take the world of beating, but if each way play, put the kettle on.
So, right, let's talk about the cross country. It's a dreadful race, this for me, Christ. Really is a bad race, in my opinion. With a desperately, yet another underpriced Fav. Easy's Land, even money. Christ. Tiger Roll 6-1. Potter's Corner 13-2. Shady Operator 7s. Lord de Menil, the boat, is there 8-1 and 12-1 bar. Right. Let's talk about Easy's Land first. Won it last year, won it impressively. Defeated Tiger Roll, who actually ran well in the race, really, last year, compared to what he's churned out this year. It's extremely short, though, isn't it, Wham?
It is, mate, yeah. Cross-country race, I like watching the race. I don't like having a bet in the race.
I really enjoy watching the race. I just think it's a gash race this year with the runners in it.
Yeah, I think you couldn't be backing Tiger Roll with, as Power alluded to before, with counterfeit, I don't think, could you? I think Easy's Land's plenty short enough, but, you know, for me, when I was having a look at this race, I came down on the Shady Operator, which won the Punchestown cross-country race. I just think that the odds, that was the one that stood out for me, really, but I didn't have any strong opinions, really, on the race.
Let's talk about Tiger Roll. Ran in the Boyne Hurdle, travelled quite well for large parts, and then just finished off like a tired, weary horse. What do you think, Ash?
Yeah, the lads have seen more of him. More from him in the Boyne. If you look at 4 of his last 5 runs, they've been very poor, going back to the 2019 Grand National. Now, I know he's been hyped up as a spring horse, and he's a legend. You know what I mean? He's 4 Cheltenham festivals he's won at. And it's similar with the Altior thing, though. Would they keep him going if he wasn't showing spark? You know, as I said, and it's a race that doesn't, you know, when I say it doesn't take that much winning in terms of other competition, you know, it's one of them. If the ground is, if there's cut in the ground, I think Easy Land will be very, very hard to beat. You know, he was carrying, I think, a mark of 167, which in a cross country is the equivalent of carrying, you know, a small family on your back. And as I said, I think the sound of the ground, I think they will prefer Tiger. And it, you know, don't get me wrong, it is centred around Cheltenham and the cross country for Tiger. I think the plus side for Easy Land is he's not got that cowboy riding him now. He rode him like he was riding, you know, kind of a bucking bronco last year. Is it Felix de Giles that's now riding him? Yeah, so I think that's a definite positive for that. He is incredibly short, but again, it's going back towards the competition, to be fair.
Yeah, well, I actually came down on a big price runner for the Scudamores at Kingswell Theatre. Ran really well here in November. Won over the cross-country course, beat Easy's Land. But you would say had the race to suit, had an easy lead and just made all hacked up. And was extremely hard to pass. Now, if the race is run to suit like that, then Christ, it'll be hard to pass, surely, Kingswell. Joe, have you got a strong opinion?
I haven't got a strong opinion, mate. I don't think you can in a race like this. If I was forced to have a bet, I'd probably have a small investment on Potter's Corner, Christian Williams. Obviously, it's won a Welsh national. It had Easy Land behind it in the Glenfarclas in November. Like you mentioned, the winner there. Don't think it has to improve much to reverse terms with that. It's probably a bit short at the moment, to be honest. I think they'll get stuck into the front two in the market, the names in the race. And then rising jockey Jack Tudor got a good relationship with it. I just think a bit of value might be with Potter's Corner, mate, to be honest. Though it wouldn't surprise me if it does nothing at all. But 7, 8, 9 to 1, I think I'd probably have a little taste on that each way.
Yeah, I think we'd best give Lord of Manil a quick shout because obviously won last time at Haydock, but obviously, Christ, that's a boat. That's slow as a boat.
National,
it really
was
is.
it? No, it wasn't. He ran in the National Hunt Chase last year, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a plunge. I remember it was a plunge horse on.
Yeah. I think I was on. Yeah. Huh?
1 second.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Good. So we'll quickly run round. I'll take a punt on Kingswell Theatre at 33. Wham.
Shady operator for me.
JP.
Potters for me, mate.
Well, B.
Watching brief for me. No
Okay.
bet.
Right. Sound. Okie dokie. Champion bumper time. And this is where Joe the Power's ears prick up, I take it, as a bookmaker. Kill Cruit or Kill Crut is at 15 to 8-5. Sir Gerhard 2 to 1. 3 Stripe Life 8 to 1. Eric Bloodack 16s 20 to 1 bar. Kill Crut was incredibly arousing viewing, wasn't it, last time? Absolutely came there swinging on the steel and hacked up. Talk to me about that race, Ash. I take it, well, I know that it wasn't as taking as it first seemed, the form of that.
Yeah, if you kind of this, and then again, this has come from Patrick Mullins on another podcast that I listened to, that he said the visuals in the last race might have been a bit misleading. He wasn't going any quicker. It was that everything else stopped, and that he just kept going, and that going into the race, Willie didn't even think that Patrick should have even been on Kill Crut. He was actually thinking he should have. I think he pronounced it Ramillies, I think.
Yep.
So again, he's going off short, and again, it's interesting now. Sir Gerhard has moved stables due to the what's gone on. 1 second time out when the aforementioned Gordon Elliott's horses weren't performing, and he was very strong on the clock, supposedly at Down Royal. However, the one I've gone for, again, purely on speed figures, is 3 Stripe Life. It was very taking when I listened to a chap called Gavin Lynch, who does the Up in the Ante podcast. And he said at the time, about 4 weeks ago, he said, if you have a back Kill Crut at decent prices, back this now, because it will tumble and it will be, it should do very well, because he's very much very good on the watch. So that'd be my pick on that.
Good. Wham, what do you think?
I think Kill Crut was a bit last time out. I think obviously it was that, I keep saying it, leopards down, bottomless ground. What did it beat? I don't think the race is probably as deep as it normally is. I don't think there's as much good form about, and maybe there's a lot more horses that we've not seen that much of lurking. I think for me, I'd be happy taking Kill Crut on. The Sir Gerhard change of stables, possibly not ideal. But if I had to, land on something, I think I'd be landing there.
Yeah. Okay. Also, if you had to move your stables, it would be to Willie Mullins as a bumper horse. Christ, he really is the master of the bumpers. Joe, what do you think?
I had a good look today, mate, and I didn't really, because I didn't have an opinion on a bumper before. I've picked out Hollow Games at 16s-ish. It won a national flat in December at Leopardstown. It beat a horse Euro Tiet, but that actually went in again today.
At 1 to 6.
Yeah, Sky Bet double. its form's been boosted with that, mate. 'Cause that's won twice since then. And I just think, Mr. Elliott, I know, is it Miss Foster now, whatever they're calling themselves. Just think they might have a nice one there. It'd be interesting if any money comes for it on the day. Obviously, it's not really fancied at the moment, though. 2 runs, 2 wins. Could be a potentially smart bumper horse that. And I think 16s looks a little bit big, mate. It's not really any fashionable connections. It's probably not been touted about much. Just if some money comes from the day, I'll probably have a little taste in that. Nothing major.
Fair enough. Well, I came down on one at about 22 to 1. Let's be clear about it for Gavin Cromwell. Now, that was actually behind Kilcruit last time and behind Sir Gerhard the time before, so it's no strangers to the market principles. Let's be clear about it last time, as in the name of the horse, not let's actually be clear about this. Was at the head of affairs more or less all the way last time. It was literally the only one who was up there with the pace to sort of even try to lay a glove on Kilcruit. Now, they won't go that quick this time, and I was quite taken by its win early on in the season, and I think it's got an each-way squeak at sort of 22 to 1, so that's the way that I'd play on this race. My selection, on the other hand, would probably be Sir Gerhard. I just think that goes and wins 2 to 1. Whammer, selection?
Sir Gerhard.
JP?
Hollow games each way, mate.
And Ash?
3 strike life.
Good. Well, that's Wednesday wrapped up a lot quicker than Tuesday, so we best move on to Thursday. And it all kicks off with the Marsh. Now, it has National Hunt's resident superstar in this, doesn't it? At the head of affairs. Envoy Allen, 8 to 11. Energy's not going for it, but it is in the betting 5 to 2. Now there's Monkfish 6 to 1. Shamblu 6 to 1. Chantry House 10s. Sporting John's also 10s, 12 to 1. Bar the rest. Okay. Envoy Allen, again, JP. As a bookmaker, what do you think? I'm personally okay laying this thing.
To me, I think Whammer mentioned before, it's maybe not ideal. I know obviously the Cheveley's have moved their horses. I just think it wins, mate, though, to be honest. I just think it's done everything it's asked of him so far. And I know it's I know there's horses with multiple entries in the race. I know Paul Nolan's latest exhibition, it's come second to Monkfish 3 times. Would probably swerve Envoy Allen, you would think. Though I had that down in anti-post prices as something that potentially could sneak in the frame. But from a punting perspective, it'd be Envoy, and I think it'd be Envoy, maybe grouped up with the other shorties in the meeting that look pretty bomb-proof. I don't think it's quite as bomb-proof as Monkfish. But I do think it wins, mate, to be honest. Though it'll probably go short and evens, won't it? And like you say, maybe then is one to lay. But I fancy it, to be honest.
Fair enough. The pace in the race likely to come from Shamblu, who will no doubt jump beautifully. And it's just a case of whether Skelton again can steal it from the front. That's the angle I'd possibly be looking into this race, maybe with Shamblu. Whammed, what do you think about Envoy Allen?
Envoy Allen more than likely wins. I think the prices are about right. I do like Shamblu as a horse. I think it's an incredible jumper. Last time out, was it at Sandown? I thought it was awesome. But I don't think Shamblu's in the same league as Envoy Allen. I don't think there's much in the race to challenge Envoy Allen, and I think the prices are about right. I think it's one of the horses you stick in your multis with your Shishkins, with your Chacun Poursois, with you if that's what you fancy. Not me personally, but with your Monkfishes, and I think it's just one for the multi bets really. And if not, it's one just to watch really and take it all in.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Where are you coming into this, Ash? What do you think?
He's just the superstar of National Open Racing, isn't he? He's won the last 2 Cheltenham Festivals. He's, this season that I think, you can say he's maybe not beaten much, but I think they've campaigned him as if they already know he's the real deal, that he doesn't need to go and prove it. And as I said, I think, from that perspective, he doesn't, fair enough, he doesn't win by 20 lengths, but I think the best horses kind of don't, because they kind of race within themselves a little bit and save a little bit, and that's why they can keep going and going. Though I'd like to say I think Envoy Allen does win, but at each-way prices, there's Lieutenant Rocco, he's fav or second fav for the Ultimate, and he got trounced by Fusel Raffles, receiving, and Fusel Raffles was giving him lumps of weight as well. And I think over 2.5 miles, I think he'll come on for that. As I said, so each way, Fusel Raffles, but again, Envoy Allen would be extremely hard to beat.
Yeah, well, I wrote down Sporting John, a horse that was well regarded last season. Won last time, beat Shamblu, who I also quietly fancy for this, and also Hitman. So Hitman will go for this. I think it probably will, won't it? That's the only entry that at Cheltenham for Hitman. Obviously won at an astronomically short price a couple of days ago. Ran really well in behind All Mankind a couple of starts ago. So won't put you off that either. Huh?
I think Hitman worth Cheltenham.
Yeah, it might do, yeah. But if it goes the 16 to 1, a decent each way price. So are you all with Envoy Allen? I'm going to go with Shambly.
Envoy.
Okay, good. Right, now, I know you love this next race, Ian. It's the Ryanair. Quickly run through the betting before coming to you. Allaho 5 to 1. Chacun Pour Soir's going the champion chase, but still in the betting 6 to 1. Imperial Aura 6 to 1. Melon 6s as his min. Altior 8 to 1, but won't go. Fakir Dudery, Kenboy, Mr. Fisher, St. Calvados 8 to 1. 6 to 1. Bar Whammer, Ryanair. Good race.
Arguably the race of the week. It's an awesome renewal. This. There is 7 horses that you can make, in my opinion, that you can make a serious case for, and I'm probably missing some out there. Min at the last year's winner, a bad run last time out. Imperial Aura, bad fall last time out. So you can kind of put them in the same bracket where there's question marks over them. How do we pronounce Aloha? Is it the top of the market?
Aloha, come on.
Aloha. Is it that good of a horse? But then you find that horses that often get revert, ended up in the Ryanair, which Allaho's gonna has happened in theory because it's not quite up to like Gold Cup form or standard. Have got quite a good record in the race. Melons. How can you not melon? Loves Cheltenham,
especially at Cheltenham.
Baku Dieri, I can never pronounce that one, but again, loves Cheltenham. St. Calvados, with a better jump at the last year, would have probably beaten Min. Mr. Fisher, again, loves Cheltenham. I just like looking at this race, and I think you can, every time you look at it, you're going to come to a different conclusion. And that's where I'm at currently.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic race. I think it's more interesting for Min's blowout last time, because if Min went and won well last time, then it would have been a relatively short 5, maybe about 5 to 2 for this. But he didn't. He got pulled up after winning the John Durkin the time before. Allaho for me. What do we think? B, do you think it's a worthy 5 at 5 to 1? I'd personally couldn't back this with your money, with Joe's money, or Ian's money.
Yeah, I think it's the wrong 5. Interestingly, 3 of the top 4 in the market incompleted last time out. As I said, the thing with Mellon, he's finished second 4 times at the festival, but he's only won 1 of his last 17 races, so he always seems to be the bridesmaid a little bit. Mr. Fisher got beaten 4 lengths in the Marsh last year. Will appreciate the better the ground, the better the horse. I think with Min last time out, I think Patrick Mullins knew, once it wasn't jumping, because it was such a good jumper that once he'd lost his bearings and wasn't in a rhythm, that he just thought it was self-preservation from there on. He's been reported by Danny Mullins as being A1. Imperial Aura, it's interesting. You know, as soon I remember texting in the group that we're in that as soon as you won at Ascot, I said Ryanair winner. Funnily enough, though, in terms of stats, the stats of the handicap that he's won last year at the festival are very, very good. Very, very bad. He's got a poor record moving forward. So, as I said, the one for me, I think Min will. I'd like to think Min will do the job, but at decent prices. Furthermore, St Calvados, who finished second in it last year, he's been campaigned as a 3 mile horse. He's not a 3 mile horse, or they tried to campaign as a Gold Cup horse, shall we say. I just hope that it's not neutralised his speed a little bit, campaigning there. So he'd be an each way play for me, but I do like Min.
Joe, what do you think?
I think that Savills chase at Leopardstown in December is quite interesting for this. I know Mellon finished ahead of it, though. I just think Allaho potentially, it was over 3 miles. I think Allaho potentially emptied a little bit after running a good race. And like Ash mentioned before, it is a bridesmaid, isn't it, Mellon? And I just think its day may have been and gone. And I think as a 6-year-old, I think Allaho potentially could have found his race here in the Ryanair of a 2 mile 4. It is quite short, though. I do quite like it from a win perspective as well, to be honest. He had some nice horses behind it at Leopardstown that day, presenting Percy, Tornado Flyer. They're no mugs, are they? I just think it could potentially have found its opening here.
Oh yeah, and it beat LMA last time, who's obviously quite a strong FAV for the Mares Chase. The one that I came down on was Fakir Tudori, who ran extremely well, really, behind Chacun Poursoir last time. Travel like a travelly thing, as Matt Chapman would say.
He beat that as well at Leopardstown.
And was well clear of the rest. But that was like a comeback to form, really, for Fakir Tudori. And it got smashed off the boards. Was it last year at Cheltenham? Or the year before?
Yeah, is that Joseph O'Brien's?
Yeah.
It's been talked, like, it gets talked up quite a bit, and then sort of melts, doesn't it, for some reason?
Yeah. Look, I think it's a great race. That'd be my tentative pick, but I think Min could be made to look an absolutely outrageous price at 6-1. So I think that could be a bit of a saver as well. Let's go through your picks then. I'm going to go for Fakir Tudori with a bit of regret, for want of a better phrase. Whammer?
Mr. Fisher for me, a reasonable-ish price out of the top 7 or 8 at the top of the market.
Joe, yeah. Joe, Allaho?
Allaho for me, mate, yeah.
And B?
Min and St Calvados each way. But I couldn't put you off Mr. Fisher if it's decent ground.
Good stuff. Right. Stayers hurdle time. Now, this is another cracking race, isn't it? Really good race. So let's run through the betting. Paisley Park and Time Hill are joint at 3-1. Sayeda Burley 7-1. Roxana likely not to go, but that's at 7-1, 10-1, and bigger the rest. I just think the front two in the market are absolutely rock solid, Whammer.
Absolutely. And I prefer Time Hill out the 2. But Paisley is a race. There's not a better race course for Paisley Park, is there, than Cheltenham? Coming from off the pace, as we saw last time out, Time Hill is he possibly a sitting duck for a fast finisher like a Paisley Park? I think they're both rock solid though, and I think they'll both run the races. I don't think there's any chinks in either of them. There's nothing else massively. I don't really think Sayeda Burley is good enough personally. I know people say that the race it won last year at Cheltenham, if it had run that sort of race here, it'd be good enough to win that. I'm not too sure myself. As I've said before, I'm surprised that Roxanne has not ended up here, and I think that's kind of that's telling in itself from the Skeltons, that I think that they've realised that Time Hill and Paisley beat Roxana last time they met, and it had gone for the easier race of a result because they don't see them, turning the tables. So I think it's between the front two at the market. I think for me, I prefer Time Hill, the slightly younger horse. I just worry about Paisley Park with the mental scarring from the bad run in the race last year, really. There wasn't too much, what did they say, a bit of a dodgy heart. I mean, it's not ideal, is it, coming back to Cheltenham? I think we touched on it before, the lack of crowds. I think Paisley Park is one horse that will prefer Cheltenham, Presby Park being empty. But I think Time Hill got beat at last year's festival in the Albert Bartlett, was only a length and a half behind Monkfish. And I think in the bumper the year before was only 2.5 lengths behind Envoy Allen. I think Time Hill, they kept it over hurdles for a reason. I think Time Hill is the real deal, and it's one of my stronger fancies of the week.
Yeah, I think Time Hill is obviously the younger horse, extremely troubled way into the race last year. Christ almighty. I actually reckon it probably would have won with a passage, but so is racing. Ash, do you think it's a match between these two?
It looks a very open division in terms of lack of depth. When we touched on Roxana going, to the mares, is that an indication? With Paisley Park, he seems to have come from a different postcode last time. I think it was his turn of foot that kind of got him out of jail. He does, there's a lot of buzzwords that go around with him in terms of hits a flat spot and, racing behind the bridle, which probably benefits him on a 3-mile hurdle. Again, you mentioned Time Hill. Everything went wrong for him in the Albert Bartlett and still got only beat by, I think, about 1.5 lengths in a blanket finish. So it really is I think it is a match between the two. But again, the Irish are sweet on cider Burley. Would he have won the Stayers last year if he'd have run it instead of the Potemps? That's the thing, you know what I mean? That kind of form, it was a poor, I know Paisley Park didn't perform. The thing with the defibrillating heart was, I think Emma Lavelle said as soon as she got it back to a stable, a home stable, that it rectified itself. So it wasn't as big an issue eventually as it was thought initially. I'd love Paisley Park to do it. I'd love it to do it. But, do you know what I mean? Lisnagar Oscar, the old second race after a wind-up. This will be a second race after a wind-up, and there was further, which in theory there should be further improvement to come. So yeah, I'd love Paisley Park to do it.
Joe, would you be put off by last year's blowout from Paisley Park?
Out of the two at the head of the market, I probably just prefer Paisley. As Whammer mentioned, fast finish, could possibly see it get up the hill better. Got quite sweet on one of Gavin Cromwell's at about 16-1. Flooring Porter won the Christmas hurdle. He had Cider Burley, Storyteller, well beat that day. Just think 6-year-old might just be there to have a do at the older boys. Again, it's an each way bet really, though. I just think it looks like it might have something. Gavin Cromwell's a shrewdy, he don't have a load of horses coming over from Ireland. I just think it might have something that, and probably a horse on the up as opposed to two established horses who've both been there and done that and had long seasons. But what a race, like you say, is possibly one of the highlights of the week for me. The long distance hurdle was a great race. I know Roxana was just beating third place. Shows the sort of quality of horse that's in there. But yeah, I'll have a stab at the Irish Raider at 16s each way.
No, I think you're right about Cromwell. I think he goes there with a couple of decent each way pokes. I'm glad you mentioned the Storyteller, because that's not been mentioned yet. I mean, this horse absolutely adores Cheltenham. I mean, it's running really well. Last time in Ireland over the larger obstacles, just in behind Kenboy in the Paddy Power Go Cut, were it? I mean, that was an immense run, to be honest. And to me, I wouldn't put anybody off an each way poke at the Storyteller. I think at about 11-1, I think it could be a bit of a steal, because I can't imagine a world in which it's not within the placings really. Lisnagar Oscar, I think you're right, Ash. I think it won really well last year. Likes Cheltenham, will really like good ground as well. And ran well last time after the wind up at Haydock. And like you said, second run after the wind up in a race that won last year, about 25-1. Crikey. Couldn't be surprised to see that win, but I think it'll be Paisley Park. Whammer, what do you think?
Time Hill.
Time Hill. Joe?
Paisley for a win, mate. And as I say, the Flooring Porter each way, just the sneak in there, give him something to think about.
And your selection, Ash?
Paisley Park.
Good. Right, okay. That wraps up Thursday and to Gold Cup Friday. And it starts off, bloody hell, these great races just keep on coming, don't they? The Triumph Hurdle, quickly run through. Tritonic is joint filed with Zanahir, both 9-4. Quilixios, 11-2. Adagio, who David Pipe's actually pretty sweet on, 10-1, 14-1 Bar. Come to you first, Joe, this time. Cracking race, what do you think?
Superb race, mate. And again, one that you probably wouldn't be having a massive interest in financially. A lot of unknown quantities, some really nice animals. Probably out there's sort of three at the head of the market. In the probably Zanahir, I think, might go off the shortest, and I can see why. And he's had, was it Saint Sam, a sort of well fancied Mullins horse? He trounced him 15, 16 lengths. I know Quilixios has beat him as well. Maybe not quite as emphatically, but still, still got the job done. But probably Zanahir, even though he may go a bit short at the off. I'm on him anti-post, and I'm quite happy with that. I think he'll run a big race.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that horse tends to sort of split opinion within the shrewdies of the industry. And it's only right that I go to Ash about this, because it's more or less half-half, isn't it, Ash? Like, a lot fancy him and a lot reckon that that they'd rather go elsewhere. What do you think?
Which horse in particular are on about there?
Zanahir.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's extremely solid. The one thing with Tritonic is it a case of recency bias a little bit, because it's something that, it's the last run out of, certainly the top three of the market. The support that's come for Tritonic is crikey. I think you're right in terms of what Joe the Powers just said there. I think at the minute Tritonic will come in until probably the day. I think they will flip round again a little bit. I think the Irish will get stuck into it. The one thing about Tritonic and Adonis winners, 3 of the last 4 have won the Adonis quite comfortably, but then finished absolutely nowhere in the Triumph. Now, obviously, he's placed at Royal Ascot, so he's no mug, and he's obviously a quick animal. As I said, it's out of the 2, and at the price, I would say Zanahir. But I wouldn't really like Quilixios, certainly at the prices as well, because the market confidence in last time out when he was, especially, I don't think Gordon Elliott had many runners at the Dublin Racing Festival, was huge. I think, before the race, it came in volumes of cash. So I'd plunk for the two Irish horses. But David Russell does tell a good story about the Triumph. Someone asked him his opinion on the Triumph Hurdle, and he said, "You're best off staying in bed. It's full of flat rats." He said, "The flat rats will look at the Cheltenham Hill and they'll be sick." He said, "Stay in bed, lads, and just come for the county."
Bloody hellfire. It's not like Russell to be miserable, is it? What the hell's wrong with him? Well, I suppose we need to talk about Tritonic Wham. I was extremely impressed by his run at Kempton. Not necessarily all the way through the race, because I thought it jumped a bit sketchily. But Christ, the distance he put between him and the second after the last was taking, wasn't it?
I was visually impressed, yeah, but you've got to question what it was up against. I know it went away at the end and won by, what was it in the end, 20 lengths or something. I thought it jumped okay. I was a bit more worried about a few flat spots really throughout the race. I think Heskin had to niggle it around, get a few niggles around, which, we're talking a Triumph Hurdle. And I just feel that even though it deserves to be, right up there at the head of the market, but I just think the Irish always have the upper hand with the novice hurdlers. Zanahir, I think, is a bit of a reputation horse. I think when it's won before Christmas, Gordon's horses weren't in great form, and that one still ran very well. So I think it's been kind of that the bandwagon's kind of got rolling as a result of that. I think Quilixios, I actually read just before we came on here that it's not confirmed which race it's going to go for yet. It still could go for the Fred Winter. But I thought at the odds, for me, Quilixios what was the pick really at the odds, and I was quite impressed with that last time out really. And as Ash touched on, the money behind it last time out, considering Gordon, again doesn't really target the Leopardstown meeting, I thought was quite telling for it. And I think he's even struggled himself to pick between the two. I think Zanahiyr is probably the quicker, more classier animal, but the Quilixilos is still, a grafter. And I think sometimes at Cheltenham, that's what you need coming up the hill.
I think it's a good point. I think the thing is with Quilixios is really it's a chaser in the making. This horse, I think the better days will come over the larger obstacles in the future. Really, Pipes keen on Adagio, has course form, won a smooth Triumph Hurdle trial there earlier on in the season. But I'm going to stick with Tritonic. I think it was a good performance last time. Had a lofty flat rating, so 100% has gears. And I think it's got the gears to win the Triumph Hurdle. So we'll quickly go around. I'm with Tritonic. You're with Quilixios, Wham, yeah?
If it ends up here, yeah.
Joe?
Zanahiyr for me, mate.
And Ash?
Zanahiyr.
Okay. Albert Bartlett time. Now, this is another one of those shocking races, in my opinion. You got Statler at 5-1, Fakira 13-2, Barbados Bucks 8-1, Choreograph 8s, Alaphilippe 10s 14-1. Bigger the rest. Christ, this is a windy race, isn't it? Week 5, do we think, Wham?
Yeah, Statler ran quite well behind Gallard de Mezzanian last time out, but I still think it kind of folded like a bit of a cheap deck chair. And is that what you want really for the Albert Bartlett? I know it kind of was from the front and it was heavy ground and things. I think it's a hard race to have a strong opinion on. I think there's a lot of question marks over a lot of the horses. And it's been a bit of a graveyard for punters, really, this race, hasn't it? A shock's wouldn't surprise you too much. There's been a few big price winners. Manila Indo, was it 2 years ago, 50-1? I think I came down on Torograph for Gigistown and Gordon. I just thought last time out that kind of, it was only a 4-runner race at Thurles, but Willie Mullins' Fighter Allen was quite well fancied that day, and Torograph just kind of led all the way. And I think when push comes to shove and Fighter Allen came alongside, I thought Torograph pulled out quite a lot more and was quite comfortable in the end. So I thought that was the one for me, but it's not a race you'd want to be getting too involved in, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. I don't particularly have a strong fancy in the race. Joe, have you?
The Albert Bartlett, mate.
Yeah.
Potentially Statler's there to be sort of got on board with, I think. I know Whammer mentioned Torograph, though. I think it's a case of, be wary of horses that have come over after a decent run of heavy ground in Ireland. Just think maybe the Statler's one for the punters. I don't know. I think that's another one that'll go off short on the day as well. I think they might get stuck into it. Was it 11-2, 6-1 now or something?
Yeah, 5-1 with Bet365. I expected to shorten as well, to be honest. Ash, have you got an opinion?
Albert Bartlett, correctly, as one said, it is a graveyard. I think it's the trickiest of the non-handicaps. It's traditionally won by hardened horses, ones with lots of experience. I know the last 2 years have kind of booked the trend with Manila Indo and Monkfish. So if you went down that kind of route, Fakira's got lots of experience, but my pick is Barbados Bucks each way for Paul Nicholls. I think it's got a really decent chance, and as I said, out of the horses that he's sending this year, I think it's one of his better chances.
Yeah, that's one I came down on as well. Has obviously been running in slightly lower grade affairs, hasn't it? But I think it's a progressive horse, and I'd have a stab at Barbados Bucks. So Torograph for Wham. Joe was going with the Statler, and you're with me with Barbados Bucks, Ash. Good. Yeah. Right, the big one then. The Gold Cup. It's got a ridiculous name this year, hasn't it? Something like the Well-Being Gold Cup. Right, anyway, they're tremendous. Album Photo, reigning, defending, two-time champion. He's there at 5-2. Champ 5-1. A Pluton 6-1, shortened markedly that thing since the start of the season. Royal Pagaille 8-1, but won't go there probably. Kenboy 10-1. Frodon 12s. Manila Indo 12s. The Boat, well, the original Boat, Santini 12-1. Native River 14 and 25-1. The rest. This is a good race as well, isn't it? This really is. To me, Album Photo's absolutely rock solid, Ash.
Look, he's won a slow run Gold Cup. He's won a fast run Gold Cup. He's probably got less to prove than anything else in the field. And to be fair, it's the one thing I will say to though is look at the horses that have finished second to him. I know last year it was more of a blanket finish. HMS Santini finished second to him. The year before that, Annabelle Fly won. Annabelle Fly came second. So, it's typically a race for stayers. I know, high quality horses don't necessarily always win this, from that perspective, because of the fact that extra, 2.5 furlongs makes a huge difference. One thing to say, it's going to be a true run race. Native River and Frodon are going to, again, make it a proper test, and I think Native River is going to win that battle between them two. He does set the standard Album Photo. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I think he may make a mistake. He's not the perfect jumper, but I think that's what's maybe a bit more alluring about him. That he's not just foot perfect all the way around. It's just boring to watch. I think it keeps you keep an eye on him a little bit. Just going through some of the other runners, I think Pluton is the biggest danger to him. If you look at the Ryanair last year, he probably looked outpaced. When he won the Savills at Christmas, that hill at Leopardstown is very deceptive in terms of how quite severe it can be. And he looked like he was romping home. So I think, potentially the extra 2 furlongs could very well play into his hands. The Champ, as I said, I think it's going to be difficult. I think it's going to be difficult for him to settle for 3 miles, considering he looked consider how well he travelled over 2 miles. Last time out, does he run 2-3? Manila Indo's been a huge disappointment. I really did like him at the beginning of the season. I thought, Henry looked after him really well, but after the first 2 runs, he seems to have he's shot to pieces. I do come down an Album Photo purely looking at, and again, through the process of elimination. So it's Album Photo for me, with Pluton as the biggest danger.
Album has obviously lightly raced, trained for the race specifically. Let's talk about Champ though. 2 miles last time out. It's hardly perfect prep for a Gold Cup, but it ran extremely well. I'd just be concerned about his jumping, Wham.
Yeah, I thought he jumped well enough last time out, though, over 2 miles, which would be a bit more of a test. I just think this horse.
I just think he's not as good when he's got to, when he looks at a fence at a slightly slower gallop and thinks, right, I'm going to negotiate that. Whereas over 2 miles, he just thinks, fence there, jump it, go on again.
Yeah. Doesn't really have the time to think about it. Whereas supposed to in the Gold Cup, it does. I think I wouldn't really put anyone off backing Champ. But I do think that obviously it's not an ideal prep. I don't care what AP says or Nicky says, we're running over 2 miles because this and that. There's obviously been issues, and I think the price now is plenty short enough for Champ. I do feel that it is a really good horse. The trip's going to suit. Cheltenham suits. I liked how even before it ran last time out, Nico had picked Champ over Santini, which me and you spoke about, and before Champ's run last time out, and Santini at that point was shorter in the betting than Champ. We questioned the decision really, so I do think there's a lot of confidence in the Henderson team behind Champ. I think JP, he bought a horse, named it after AP to win the Gold Cup. This has always been the ultimate aim. I think the form of the RSA last year is maybe not turned out as well as it looked initially. But I couldn't put anyone off backing Champ apart from the prep it's had. But I do think the price now is a bit on the short side for me, really.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly short, really. I couldn't have Champ, to be totally honest. Chadders wanted me to mention, we all know Chadders on here. Chadders has backed a Plutard at astronomical.
He's not,
huh?
He's not, has he?
Well, he keeps tweeting, doesn't he? Our weekly reminder that a Plutard wins the Cheltenham Golf Cup. So here is your reminder to the podcast listeners from Chadders that a Plutard wins the Golf Cup. Just on that horse, it ran really well in the Savills Chase to get up on the line, essentially. And that would have a chance for it, Ash is right. Joe, what do you think?
Plutard's got a chance, mate. Worry whether it's quite got the class to see out a Gold Cup amongst these animals. Like you say, I think Alboom is solid, though. The only thing that puts me off slightly is he's been quite inactive. Obviously, I think did he beat Acapella Bourgeois by 20 lengths, the one race he has had in between this and last year. So he's obviously pretty decent, though. I think Champ is the interesting one. I think they've clearly got a plan with him. I think, the connections know what they're doing in terms of readying an horse for a Gold Cup, and it wouldn't surprise me if he runs out of his skin. I think if the ground is properly soft and it's not an emphasis on pace, then I think Native River's a big price each way. I just think, he knows what he's doing. He gets the trip. If it's a case of outstaying horses, then I think he's possibly back to where he was a couple of years ago. I think they do want soft ground, though. I think if he's playing chase, catch up, then I think he'll probably find the race has got away from him coming round up the hill. Though, yeah, I think if there's a bit of rain arrives maybe between now and next Friday, then I think Native River at 14s, I think you can get 16s maybe in some place. I think it's a big price at each way. I think he's got every chance of just getting there and hitting the frame, really.
No, I completely agree. I think, I'm glad that you brought him up because I was going to. Won the race in 2018. Will likely lead. Okay, he'll have thrown on up his girth, but really, let's be honest.
He'll see him off.
Absolutely. Now, the one that we haven't mentioned, and it's quite interesting, I might get laughed at for mentioning, but I suppose we have to mention that Santini, 12-1, had a dreadful season. Yeah, let's be honest, he's had a dreadful season. But it's a horse that absolutely adores Cheltenham. Ran an absolute stormer in this race last year. I mean, an extra sort of 20 yards, and who knows? We could be talking about Santini as a Gold Cup winner. So I'd actually give that horse a chance. Now, at 12-1 is a bit slim for me. I'd rather 16-1, I think, would be a really good each-way bet. Well, 20s, 18s, 16s, whatever. I think that's a decent each-way bet. But 12-1, probably that ship, no pun intended, has sailed. Yeah, I'm absolutely all over Albion Photo for this, to be honest. Like B said, slowly run race, and also has won a quickly well-run race in terms of Gold Cups. I just think he goes to win it again, and I'm expecting Simon Holt to do his 3 Gold Cup lines. So we'll go for everyone again. Wham, who wins the Gold Cup?
A horse we've not really spoke about to come up in passing. I'm going to go for Manila Indo each way. I think the horse loves Cheltenham, trained by Billy's favourite trainer, Henry de Bromhead. I just think I know he's not had the best of seasons, but I just think Cheltenham brings out the best of Manila. And I think at the odds, around 16-1, I think that's the bet for me each way.
I think he's shot at the minute. Confidence-wise, jumping looks.
Who, Henry?
No, Manila Endo. If you look at his first 2 runs compared to his last 2 runs, he looks a completely different horse. I think it could be
at Cheltenham, though.
Yeah, I think Cheltenham could bring the horse alive.
And I just think it's quite a wide open race. I think Albu Photo is rock solid. I think we're talking about 3 Gold Cups. I just got a feeling this year. I did back Albu last year. Just got a feeling this year it gets beat. Like I said, I wouldn't put anyone off Champ. I don't like a Plutard. I don't know why. I just don't think Cheltenham necessarily suits. I know last time out visually you'd think otherwise. I think for me, I wouldn't put anyone off the top two in the market if that's what they wanted to do. Alboon, Falter or Champ. I just think Manella Indo for me each way would be my selection.
Yeah, I'd be careful there. I think Chadders will be all over you there, Whammer, in your WhatsApp messages. Joe, what do you think? Prediction?
Could be a new kid on the block, mate. I'd have a speculative punt on Champ.
Ashley Billington, Gold Cup.
I'm going to say Aplutard. Just at the prices now, I think. I just think on the day that I think the Irish will latch on to Alboon Photo, and I think it could go off very short. So the price is, I would say, probably Aplutard. I think he is going to be the biggest danger to Alboon Photo. So yeah, it'd be Aplutard for me.
Good stuff. Good. Well, that's the Gold Cup negotiated. Let's just quickly run over the Mares' Chase if we can. Ellie May 15-8, Colreevy 7-2. Interesting runner Shattered Love 15-2. Annie Mac 8-1. 14's Bar. Ellie May's well thought of, well backed last. Well, not last time, but the time before when it lost to Allaho. Ran well, and then won last time. I think it's a worthy fav. Ash.
I'll be honest, it's not really a race that I've looked much into, so I'll take a lead off you boys, to be fair on it.
Wham, have you looked?
Yeah, I think obviously it's a new race, isn't it? But Willie ultimately loves mares races at Cheltenham, so I wouldn't be looking to. I think Alame's a worthy fav. I think Shattered Love, he beat Shattered Love last time out. But Shattered Love prefers, he's got Cheltenham winning form. The step up in triple be a plus. Alame is a very small horse, very small mare as well, supposedly. So I'm not sure how that kind of will work around Cheltenham. I think Colreevy is Willie's second string. I'm not 100% sure that he's definitely going for the race, but I think that's the one I ended up landing on when I was studying the form a little bit, really.
Yeah, I think that's got a chance if it turns up there. It has been entered in more or less every single race at the festival. Joe, have you got an opinion?
I was taken with LMA when it won in Ireland, mate. I thought it won well. Like Whammer mentions, small horse, whether it'll want it a bit softer than it's likely to turn out next week. I think that was in like heavy where he absolutely hacked up. So potentially he might find himself a bit blunted by the ground, but clearly they're not that bothered if they're getting stuck into it. And it's at 15-8 now. So yeah, I'd like to be on that here.
Yeah, I think it's a decent enough price. I'd be with Ellie May. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see Shattered Love win it. Like what we're alluded to, he's got good Cheltenham form and is a decent horse. So Ellie May for us three. And Ash, you've not looked at the race, but are you going to have a stab?
Pass. That's the one. Yeah, just pass. I've got other invested my time elsewhere, shall we say?
That's fine. No worries. Right. Okay. Let's have a look at some handicaps. And because I'm just a shade concerned about how long we've taken, I'm going to ask you for one or two fancies in the handicap. So we'll come to you first, Ash. I want your two most fancied runners in those particular. Well, in any handicap, I want one or two of your strongest fancies.
Okay, so Potemps, Mrs. Milner.
You love Kevin Blade, don't you?
Well, that, and he's been put up by another pundit as well. Imperial Alcazar in the same race. So, but I think the price is going to go on Imperial Alcazar. I was very taken how he won at Haydock, and I think he's potentially dropped in here. But for that, You Raise Me Up for the Coral Cup.
You raise me up. Carry on.
If it does coming out, and I know it's not original, but Happy Go Lucky and Lieutenant Rocco in the Ultima. And then last but not least, I know it's not a handicap, but Bob and Co, especially now there's no amateurs. I know it's not a handicap, but for the Fox Hunters or the Hunter Chase, it's now called, because I think Sean Bowen's going to ride him, which is a huge plus, and it's not going to be David Maxwell. which would have been a possibility if it had been amateurs only.
Not like David Maxwell.
He's just not Sean Bowen, though, is he? That's the thing. Fair play, he buys the horses, he can do whatever he wants with them. But, when it comes to, increasing your chances of, having a Cheltenham winner, I think, it's a huge plus point having Sean Bowen on board.
Yep, fair dues. Whammer, 1 or 2 or 8 as beaded?
I do have quite a few, to be honest, but we'll quickly go through them. Quixilos, if it ends up in the Fred Winter, I would strongly fancy to win the Fred Winter. Alot, a horse that has been over fences this year, is entered in the Coral Cup on the Wednesday for Nicky Henderson. Nicky's got a good record in the Coral Cup. I thought that at a big price is quite interesting. In the plate on is it the Thursday, the plate?
Thursday, yeah.
I thought that Gordon or Denise Foster, as he's now known, has a very strong hand in the race with Farkless, Conflated, and Cocoa Beach. And I would be surprised if he doesn't end up having the winner of that. And finally, in the Johnny Henderson Grand Annual, which is now on the Tuesday, that used to be the last race on the Friday, but it's now on the Tuesday. I thought that last year's race, the top 3 from last year are all here again. Gordon, or Denise, has got Chosen Mate, last year's winner, off a similar sort of mark. It's only run once since and didn't really do anything. I thought Gordon had the second as well with Eclair de Buffoon, and Joseph O'Brien had Us and Them. They were the top 3. I think all 3 of them are backable again, really, to repeat or go close again.
Thanks for that. Very good indeed. JP?
I've gone for 2 of Venetia's, mate, at decent enough prices. In the Ultima on Tuesday, I quite fancy a Keel. It's at 25s. I think it's a too big a price for me, that. It just got outstayed by Lord de Mesnil at Haydock recently. That were over 3 mile 4, though. It was absolutely on the snaff most of the race round. This is over 3 mile 1. The ground should be a bit firmer. I think it's a big price. It's quite a nice jumper. Just think he's probably going there under the radar. I think the connections will be quite sweet on it after that last run at Haydock. I think he could run a big race. On the Thursday in the plate, Venetia Williams again. It always runs a true race. Espoir de Guy, is it pronounced? He's had a couple of decent runs this season. Just think
did it win on Saturday?
Sorry, pal.
Did it win on Saturday? Or am I thinking of a different horse?
It won on Saturday.
I'm thinking of a different horse, I think.
Yeah, usually it's running. It won the Coral Handicap at Ascot. Just think it's possibly been overlooked a little bit. Think he gets the trip. I think he's had a couple of decent spins round in handicaps before. I just think it like 16 to 20s. I think be getting decent value for your place at least.
Good stuff. Thank you. My 1 or 2 would be the Shunter. Now that literally is in every single handicap. So it's just a case of what race it goes for. I'm not going to speculate which one it will, but it won quite well at the weekend, and had again a troubled race. So I think whatever that runs in, I think that'll be a decent price, and I think you can have a decent play on that. Whammer mentioned it, Eclair de Buffoon. That's in the Grand Annual or the County Hurdle. I think that'd have a decent chance as well. So they are my 2 on the handicap.
Can I just mention one more that I forgot to mention?
Yep.
Or 2 more. We'll be quick. Spirit of the Games for the Skeltons will be back over hurdles, it looks like, and he's entered in all the handicap hurdles. I think that's got I think that'll be there or thereabouts. And the one that I really wanted to mention was Column of Fire, which fell in the Martin Pike, the last race last year. It's still a novice, so it's in the same race again off the same mark, and I think that could get its comeuppance.
No, I think that's a good shout. A really good shout, yeah. Right, okay. That's the handicaps dealt with and all the big races. So we'll end with a bit of a nap and lay type thing. Now, I don't know if we want to do a bit of a competition on this or not. It's up to you, boys. But what I'm going to ask is for your nap and lay of the festival. So, Ian, we will come to you first. Everybody's hanging the hat on your nap.
Are we doing this like obviously? If we could just say monkfish and
Yeah, you could do. Let's say at odds of 9-4 or bigger.
I'm going to go for Time Hill in the Stayers.
Interesting. Joe, what's your nap?
Probably Gallard in the Ballymore, mate. I think it's a really nice thing, that.
Fair dues. Ash?
Same race, Bob Ollinger.
A real clash. I'm going to nap up Albion Photo. It just hacks up in the Gold Cup again. And your lay one?
Shaq and Poursoir. I just think there's too many. There's too many question marks and there's some serious opposition.
Yeah, fair. Joe?
I'll take you on, mate. I'll happily lay Albu.
Okay. Ash?
Having the bumper.
Kilcrew it. Yeah, that was my lay all week, but I just feel because I have this. I'm not sure I can't get on board with the National Hunt Superstar, so I'm going to lay Envoy Allen at 8-11. Right, lads, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've enjoyed it. Yeah. To be fair, I could look absolutely mental, but I could also look an absolute genius, and I'm quite happy to take my chance.
Live by the sword.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's been a pleasure, lads. I basically just came up with this idea just to have a Cheltenham chat, and I've really enjoyed it. I'm not sure about you boys; you might be absolutely bored stiff, but I did. So yeah, I think we'll call it a night there after about 2.5 hours of pure National Hunt chat.
Top work, boys.
Yeah,
absolutely loved it. Thank you very much, fellas.
Good stuff. Right, yo, guys. Goodbye.
Best of luck.
See you later.